All right, well, let's get going here. If I can figure out how to do this. Cool. Folks can see that okay, right? I'm not the best at all this computer stuff. Yeah, so gonna look at like half the communities I visited this past year. May to November. I think pretty much everywhere in this presentation will be in there. I have visited a couple more communities since then. Uh, that cow there on the left, that's the cow I learned to milk at St. Isidore, which was Thursday's presentation, if you want to see that, part one. And that picture on the right there is from the Mary House kitchen above the sink. That's kind of the splash guard of their kitchen. Uh, yeah, if you're interested in any of these pictures and reading my little write-ups of some of these places, you can check out my blog, catholicworkertheo.blogspot.com, and folks have been really generous. I'm trying to continue these journeys visiting Europe, so you can find out about helping with that on there. That's a picture on the left. That painting is from the Cherith Brook Catholic Worker. It's hanging in the guest room I visited of Dorothy Day there. There is nothing we can do but love, and dear God, please enlarge our hearts to love each other, to love our neighbor, to love our enemies as our friend. And that's a picture of Sugar Creek down there on the bottom. That's the Midwest Catholic Workers like social gathering they do every year. And if I have time at the end, I'll show some Sugar Creek pictures too, because it's always fun. It's been a fun adventure. I've made it to see 20 different communities along the way. A lot of fun Catholic worker road trips, and yeah, some nice train rides and bus rides too there. The very first place I visited when I kicked off these travels in May was the Cherith Brook Catholic Worker in Kansas City. I actually lived there for a good chunk of 2014. So it was a fun reunion as the first place we went. This house here is the house Eric and Jody live in. They started the Cherith Brook house there. I think like 14 years ago at this point. They have a couple kids who grew up there and are moved on and have another son, I believe, living there now. You can see some gardening going out front there. And it's kind of terraced. You can kind of see one of the stone walls there. There's a few different levels. And in years past, they would plant stuff along the sidewalk there. That's kind of the spot this photo's taken from, like hot peppers and stuff. And folks could just kind of grab one walking by was the idea, or when they're coming to the breakfast. If you're somebody who likes a little spice, you can get some chilies from the garden on your way in and stuff like that. This is kind of where the main action happens. The storefronts here on the lower levels are the main hospitality space. The one on the right until recently was owned or rented for many years by a barber. When they bought the building, they weren't going to kick this barber out of his shop who'd been there for many years, and so they just let him continue paying the same rent until he passed away a year or two ago. So that they have that now, and just did a big fundraiser to remodel it in there and stuff. But on the left there is the main that storefront is where the showers and breakfast happen. That's kind of their main work, is showers. And above each of those storefronts is an apartment too. And so community members will live in these couple apartments, two bedrooms each there. Yeah, so that's the main building. There's a big mural on the side of their building with that famous Dorothy Day quote on it. Um, we know him in the breaking of bread, and we know each other in the breaking of bread, and we are not alone anymore. So it's pretty cool. It's really, really big. Uh, that bench there on the left, I actually made when I lived there back in 2014. So it's still in use there. I guess left my mark. And the bottom left there, that's a painting of Elijah at Cherith Brook. God had the ravens feed him when he was hiding out there. And so that's the story they take their worker name from. So on the left there is we have our breakfast for the day. We had some homemade beans and rice and enchiladas being served by Lois there. Um, the main thing they do is showers. Eric and Jody started it. The open door community in Atlanta, and they had seen a shower program there and it decided to do that in Kansas City. But inevitably, food just kind of started happening at the same time, too. So they have a cafe area, and you can get breakfast there a few times a week, as well as a shower. And then that's just a giant pile of juice there on the right. That sometimes happens at Catholic worker houses, you just have tons of juice. So likewise, a bunch of bread. Dorothy Day said there's always bread. This is one of those Catholic workers that has lots of day-old bread at it. The picture on the right there is kind of it's outside of the showers. And folks can brush their teeth or shave or something at that sink there if they want to. I didn't get a picture of one of the showers. Each room has a shower and a sink and a toilet, and you get, I think, 20 minutes in there morning after 15. This was the first stop I went on, and kind of at that point, I had not fully fleshed out that I was trying to document places I was seeing so much. So that's why I don't have that. But folks could shave and stuff if they were out of time in the showers. One thing about Cherith Brook, they clean the showers in between everyone. Showers can get pretty gross when a bunch of people are using them. So they think that that's like a good dignity thing, that everyone should get a clean shower. One thing that's interesting, here's some art that's in their cafe. One thing that is interesting about their operation is so they have a clothing closet, so you can get clean clothes when you're coming out of the shower. And the system is kind of, you turn in your dirty stuff and they wash it and put it back in the clothes closet the next day. And that's how they keep from running out of clean clothes to give folks, because otherwise the jeans would all disappear pretty quick and stuff like that. I happen to be there for Memorial Day. Brian is there on the right giving a speech about we're outside of the nuclear weapons parts factory there in Kansas City. The KC Peaceworks was putting on this event, I think, and Cherith Brook is friends with them. They hosted the Catholic Worker Resistance Retreat there 12 years ago. I don't know. It was a while ago. It had a good action, tons of arrests and stuff like that. So yeah, just your one of your normal Catholic worker protests at the nuclear facility there. Also went to protest with them with like the KC Tenants Union and the kind of Fight for 15 folks in Kansas City. This was Kansas City. I had passed an ordinance that tenants should have representation in court, a good thing, but they weren't funding it. So this was a pressure the city to actually fund lawyers for tenants in eviction court. So they're involved with doing that kind of resistance, supporting other groups in the area. Here's their clothesline, and that's a giant rain barrel there on the right. Pretty big. They of all the Catholic workers I've ever seen on this tour and beyond, Cherith Brook might have like the best urban homestead garden setup kind of thing. It's pretty extensive. They have a bunch of bees. Here's me learning to be a beekeeper. They have like a dozen hives or something like that. Different folks on the bee team have specific hives. And one interesting thing was they had kind of set it up for folks to learn about doing beekeeping. So they bought a bunch of extra bee suits. They even had a big bee suit for me to wear. And they'll partner you with a more experienced beekeeper if you've never bee kept before, and you'll do it for like a whole season and learn about it. And so, yeah, they were just trying to plug folks into beekeeping. So I got to help Eric do some beekeeping one afternoon. Yeah, this is an experience. They got a bunch of fruit trees there as well as vegetable beds. They got some cherries, I think, there on the right, but they do pears and peaches and apples and all kinds of stuff. I was there in May. They were putting some of these seedlings in. Their chickens were living in the tree at that point. They have this nice chicken coop there on the left, but they did not want to go in at night. I think in the long run, it was detrimental to their odds against the raccoon or whatever that eventually got a number of them, I think. But you can't make the chickens go in there super easily at night. This is like the view from the back porch of one of those apartments I was staying in. All of that tree stuff you see there is different fruit trees, actually, and this is actually looking down like at the chicken yard. So there's like apple trees in the middle of the chicken yard and stuff like that. So I don't know if you can really see. I think there's some chickens right there, but this whole area is a big chicken yard. When I lived there in 2014, they had like 40 chickens at that point. They do not have that many currently, but big chicken folks there. I was only at the Des Moines worker for a couple of days. I went up there to meet up with my friend Julie Brown, who then drove me across the state of Iowa. So I do not have a ton of pictures there. Here's some artwork. I didn't actually even get a picture of any of their houses. That's just a drawing of one of them on the left. They have like 4 houses that are connected by like a back alleyway together. In one of them was they would do they pre-COVID time had been doing like a drop-in center stuff. During COVID, they'd been serving out a window. It was like a drive-through kind of, except people would walk up instead of driving up. They were kind of in a weird spot with a number of folks having moved in during COVID and figuring out like reopening and what did they want to do and how or if they wanted to do it in certain ways. And that was an interesting thing, like me about my travels this past year, is there was a lot of this straddling like the COVID, what is opened or closed kind of line. Cherith Brook during COVID had gotten like some carports and gas heaters, and they were still doing that outside. And I was like the first visitor at St. Francis House in Chicago when they were looking to like maybe reopen for that after COVID. So Des Moines was just one more place like that. Here's some art from the walls of the Des Moines worker. You got Uncle Sam shooting up oil as an injectable drug there on the left. Dorothy and Peter on the right there. There's Julie posing with a plant in the extensive Des Moines Catholic Worker Library. And this picture on the right, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of like a Catholic worker thing. Like it's just a shelf with random stuff on it. And some of it's kind of religious. And some of it's kind of like political. And some of it's like a little bit practical. Like there's some hand sanitizer that may not have been used in a while. and like some keys that are probably going to something. So I feel like you'll bump into this just kind of random stuff at a lot of Catholic workers. And
Yeah, you pronounce that sign? I what, New York?
That's a Predator drone or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it says people before politics, profits and polluters. It says peace to all who enter here. It says trans people belong in Iowa. And then there's like a picture of like a cardinal or something. I don't know who that is. Probably important in Des Moines. I visited the mustard seed farm in Ames, Iowa. Eric Anglada from the New Hope, or not New Hope, St. Isidore Catholic worker, asked me at Sugar Creek in the fall after having traveled for a while. He said, Theo, which Catholic worker made you work the hardest? And was it the mustard seed farm? And it was, in fact. They go pretty hard. They they grow a whole lot of food, a whole bunch of different kinds of food. When I was there, they had a bunch of interns there who I think worked like 30 hours a week as part of the internship. They also had volunteer work days. Folks would come in the morning and help harvest stuff for a few hours and then get to leave with kind of like a CSA box at the end of the day. So yeah, they work pretty hard there. Top right, if you can't tell, there's some grapes, some apple trees here. It was one job every night to go and get all of the beetles off of the grape plants. There would just be thousands and thousands of beetles on these many plants. And it was kind of like nobody wanted to do it because you had to go around with a bucket of soapy water and like brush thousands of beetles into a pail every night. So that was an exciting endeavor. Here's some more vegetables that looked pretty nice. They also give boxes of produce to poorer folks in the community. And one thing that was interesting about them is they would take it to like the low income health clinic kind of place. And so then when a doctor was like, you need to have a better diet, they could be like, we have a bag of stuff. Do you want to just take this bag of healthy food with you? So that was cool. One thing that's different than some of the Catholic worker farms I visited is they grew flowers like very intentionally, and they would like harvest them and make flower arrangements to put in like the CSA boxes and stuff or send to the low income clinic. So that's what's happening there on the right, or those are flowers to be grown and harvested. On the left there is prairie flowers. So they have a large chunk of their land. They've been doing prairie restoration and will burn it and stuff every now and again. And a few of the Catholic worker farms were trying to get into that prairie restoration stuff. They probably had the biggest example. They have sheep there. I don't remember all their names. One of them's named Dorothy after Dorothy Day. That they don't milk them or anything, but they do. Alice does wool stuff. And so yeah, so they have 3 sheep. They got the beehives there on the left overlooking a little pond that didn't look super great, but I guess the interns had gone swimming in it. So, maybe they're just braver than me. There's the sheep again at twilight and a little St. Francis statue amongst everything. So this is kind of looking that like on the left there, the pavilion-y looking thing, that is the outdoor kitchen. So almost like all the cooking and stuff happened outside. Within that like top space of that pavilion-looking area was actually one of the interns' bedrooms. They lived up there, but they would have to get out if there was a big lightning storm because there was like fear about this acting like as a lightning rod. So I guess not the ideal location. But a number of the like housing situations there at the mustard seed farm were slightly precarious. That trailer there on the left has been there like as long as they have, which is more than a decade. And it has like an extension cord running to it, but that's about all of the amenities you can expect. And that lower right picture, that reddish barn, the second floor is kind of like has some bedrooms and kind of a dormy room in it. And then that tan building there in the bottom left picture, in the bottom picture, is just like a barn. There's stuff hanging in it. That shadow beast is the cat there. Very popular resident of the farm is Shadow Beast. And this picture on the right there, that is where I stayed. It's like a semi-finished trailer. A friend had just parked it on their land to work on it, and didn't even have a floor in it, kind of thing. So, like I was saying, it was a little haphazard. But I got to sit there. I had some shade, looked over the beautiful prairie restoration field. So yeah, it was pretty good in its own way. That's a countertop on the left there in the outdoor kitchen. On the right, that's their really old pump for their well. I think they're trying to do a fundraiser to get a new one, but it's an antique classic there. Here's some of their kitchen cooking stuff. All the cooking was done on this camp stove in the outdoor kitchen. They did have bread baking capabilities down there, and that's a solar oven. If you've never seen one of those before, all the mirrors redirect the sun's rays through a glass that heats up there, so you can bake in that. It's hard to tell what's going on here, but this is their shower, actually. So in the very top left there, maybe you can see that's like a tank that you fill up with a hose from that well. And it's black, and so hopefully it gets warmed up by the end of the day. And then this is like a shower you would have in your house. It's just not in a building, but it's like the plastic structure. And so there's just a little hose coming down from that tank, and that is the shower for the mustard seed. And there's a little curtain there. You can pull the curtain closed, and it's by design that there's all this foliage kind of obstructing it in the photograph, but there's like pear tree there and sunflowers and stuff like that. So it was pretty rugged in its, it's like camping, kind of living at the mustard seed farm. I went into the Romero house in Ames, which is a newer house, like maybe 2 years old at this point. I was catching a bus to go to my next Catholic worker stop, but I thought it would be good to have a real shower and a real clothes washing before I did that. And neither of those were really options at the mustard seed farm, as we just saw. So they kindly let me come spend the night in Romero house. It's a few 20-something-year-old guys with connections to Iowa State. That's the university there in Ames. It's college town. Yeah, so Matt was kind of started it a few years ago and just bought this house, and they've since kind of shifted into being a nonprofit, I believe. They do housing for men. This is their chapel down there on the left. They were maybe they were probably the most prayingest Catholic workers I visited. They do morning prayer each day, go to mass most days at the university, and then do evening prayer and silence for an hour leading up to dinner as well. So they had a pretty nice chapel. It's also where I slept. They have a couch, so I slept in this here chapel. They'd just gotten permission to host the Eucharist there when I was visiting, and they were very excited about that. Here's just some Catholic worker art just sitting on a shelf in their can room. It's like a giant, room full of cans. Handwritten Dorothy Day letter there on the left. I don't remember where they got it because everyone involved there is younger than I am, so Dorothy didn't send it herself. But then also there on the right, is just a cozy sitting area in their house with a picture of the Pope there. They had this nice outdoor fire areas, some chickens there. Here's just their kitchen. A few different people said they liked seeing the Catholic worker kitchen, so at some point I started doing that. So theirs was just a pretty normal kitchen. One thing that was interesting that was different about their house is they kind of had like an intercom system in that you can just get pretty cheap, I guess, nowadays in their house. So instead of like yelling like dinner, they could just like push the button and be like, hey everyone, it's dinner time if you want to come down. So that was a more unique thing. I don't think I'd seen that in any other Catholic workers. Here's St. Francis House in Columbia, Missouri. This is the sign in the other picture. It says something along the lines of tweet others the way you want to be tweeted, I believe is what the bird is saying there. They serve breakfast and dinner. Either folks can come in and eat in their house, or if they're COVID vaccinated, or they can get a to-go out the door there. A few folks would hang out. Most people got it to go. You could get a shower if you needed a shower during like the open hours. Some folks would hang out. When I visited there, like in 2013, they were doing a lot more, just like every couch and corner of the floor had somebody sleeping on it, kind of a thing. They cut way back during COVID. They still had some overnight guest folks who wouldn't be housed otherwise living there with them. And then they did meals. The thing about their meals was they've gotten to a point where they like never have to cook anymore because they have so many sweet churches cooking for them. They're in the same town as the University of Missouri, so it's another college town Catholic worker, and they get like all the food from the athletic department if they want it. So like all the football team meals just get brought over there. So sometimes they're just like swimming in steak and stuff like that. A lot of Catholic worker art at this one. Table here has fruit and stuff, snacks for folks coming in, every kind of condiment that's ever been thought of. Here's some more of that Catholic worker art, including George Bush kind of made up like Hitler there on Steve's door. That's Steve from St. Francis House. That's his door right there. Here's some kitchen shots. This on the left is like their can room. There's a big fridge on the right too. A lot of coffee and stuff you can see there, and the spice rack here in the main kitchen. This is their smoking porch. Many Catholic workers, not all, have a smoking porch where a lot of people hang out on hot days / smoke cigarettes and hang out together. So this is their porch, and that is their cat. They're the cat Catholic worker. It mostly stays outside unless it's too cold or something. It'll go into somebody's room specifically. They're right next to Columbia College, like right next to their soccer field. So it's a weird phenomenon. This will just like be lit up until like 10 o'clock each night with stadium lights. And then instantly, like the sun will go down, as they say there, and the university will turn off the lights because practice is done. But sometimes you get to watch some free competition there on the field. So New York was where I spent a good chunk of my autumn out that way. I had kind of 2 longer stays there, and then at St. Isidore, it was kind of nice to be in one spot for a while. It gets a little tiring moving. So going back, so like I mentioned earlier, like straddling the COVID divide, when I first got there, they were still doing like the less people in the building kind of stuff. So this pop-up tent is what they'd been doing for a long time, with chairs there just in the street. And folks could come get food, and if they wanted to sit there outside there and eat, they could. If they wanted to take it to go, they could. So yeah, when I first got there, they were still doing that, but they transitioned back to letting folks come eat inside the house for their noonday meal by the time I left in the dining room. They mostly do women primarily. You can also get clothes and a shower during like the house being open times. Here's the kitchen. It's a little more hardy and industrial. They did not have like a ton of, like, I showed some workers with a ton of cans and all kinds of food. They were a little more sparse on the food, actually, surprisingly. You'd think a big city like New York, tons of donations. Not necessarily so. Not that anyone was going hungry. There's Fritz from Amsterdam cooking potatoes with Carla. Each Monday through Friday, they would do an open lunch for folks who needed a meal could come in. And they had somebody on house, which is a very common phrase for Catholic workers, answering the door and stuff. So Carla, I would have been on house right here, and Fritz is helping her cook. This is just some art at Mary House. Fight the technological oppression. They got their payphone looking telephone there on the left. I don't think you actually have to pay to use it, but it's pretty stylish. And hanging next to it is the directory they put out every couple of years, listing all the Catholic worker houses and their phone numbers and stuff, so they can refer to it as needed right next to the phone. This is on the right is their shopping cart and got a ton of use. An interesting thing about them, St. Joseph House, which we'll see in a minute, is just a few blocks away. And each day somebody cooks dinner at St. Joe's, and then somebody from Mary House goes with this shopping cart, gets half the food from St. Joseph's and wheels it over to Mary House. So then only one person has to cook for like 50 people instead of 2 people each cooking for 25 people, or whatever the math would work out to. So that thing was going back and forth once or twice a day with donations and empty pots and pans and full pots and pans and stuff like that. I got to be there for like a full newspaper cycle, which was interesting. There it is on the left getting unloaded. And then in the bottom is the finished product being loaded into a U-Haul to deliver. They fold them all by hand still, as like a fight computers kind of thing. Like, instead, almost everyone else with a mailing that big gets it done by a company. But like, why have a technology do work that people could do is a thought some Catholic workers have. So tens of thousands of them get folded up and tabbed, and then they have to put them in like a very specific zip code order. So each of those bags in this lower picture are zip code specific bags that they then have to hand off to the post office. So it's like a whole to do doing it. There's more of those bags. Each of those are specific destinations. It's my dirty hand from folding all the papers. I got to sit down on their editorial meetings too. It was all very interesting. They get tons of stuff sent in. They don't even have to write if they don't want to. Mary House is in an old music school. Like, a lot of the bedrooms are practice rooms and stuff. And their main meeting area was an auditorium at that music school. So they have like a stage and all this stuff. And so they can have round table discussions on Friday evenings. That's a picture of Kathy Kelly there in the bottom center. They also have a giant table where they fold all those newspapers at. And then also around the sides of the room, just like a lot of stuff, like these giant puppets that say "Let Yemen Live," and mailing supplies and furniture and just stuff that piles up at a Catholic worker house. Here's some more art. A lot of Catholic workers have the art on the style art on the left, which comes from Willa in Baltimore. So I threw one of those in there, but like half Catholic worker houses or more have some of those on the wall. Those, I guess they're watercolors maybe. Here's some art that says the government will not set you free, chores will set you free. Thought that one was funny. Occupy sign there. On the left is the roof of Mary House, an underutilized space in my opinion. Kind of go hang out there. On the right there, this is the Mary House smoking porch on the right with a mural there and some chairs. Here's a cat from their Catholic worker. There's two kinds of Catholic workers, cat Catholic workers and dog Catholic workers. The cat Catholic workers thinks it's bad hospitality to have a dog because people are scared of dogs. But the dog Catholic workers say it's bad hospitality to have a cat because people are allergic to cats. And so they get to argue about that. Is their library on the left there? Tons of books. They have a lot of plants there in the background and even some fish that live in these cool terrarium kind of things. Phil at St. Joe's takes care of those, I think. Here's their chapel at Mary House. They would, Monday through Friday, there's a rosary each morning and other prayer stuff too from time to time. Here's a couple pictures from Dorothy Day's room. They have not cleaned it out kind of ever since she died. They did reupholster the furniture. There's also like books and stuff. The sign there, little plaque there says the future will be different if we make the present different. That's by Peter Maurin. A lot of curiosity from folks about the Dorothy Day bedroom. I have mixed feelings about it, but I guess it's something to see. And here, so now here's some pictures from St. Joseph's house. Picture on the left from their soup line they do each morning. Here's just some art, Big Dan Berrigan on the wall, Ammon Hennessy on the right there. For the fifth time, we openly refuse to play the war games of sinful defense. Signed the Catholic workers, what his banner says. Working at the soup line at St. Joe's is kind of the most like working at the hippie kitchen of any worker I saw. The hippie kitchen being the LA Catholic worker soup kitchen. There's a lot of just like ways to plug in for brand new people. So on the left there, folks are just buttering bread. They would do buttered bread each day. They would do peanut butter sandwiches each day. And then they would do bologna and cheese sandwiches. So those all have to get assembled. And they use like wax paper to bag them up there. On the right, we see some cowboy coffee being made. Just in a pot on the stove. They also do soup each morning. That's kind of the main meal. On the left there, we got some fruit and desserts getting divided up. On the right, that is all their soup for the morning on that cart. So they, again, because of COVID, had been serving outside with to-go stuff. Each person will get 2 of those cups of soup as part of their going through the line. Backyard here, cleaning the big pots. Mural. Here's their kitchen, again, a little more industrial. And this is the splash guard on the right here for their sink, similar to the Mary House one. They do a no war in Yemen vigil each Saturday for like the past 7 years or something. Pretty faithful. Bill in the top right there hands out the newspaper to anyone who will take it. And it's like a lot of other Catholic workers. You stand there with the sign, and they're in Union Square, which is the place where Dorothy first handed out the worker back in 1933. I went out to Staten Island to see Dorothy's grave. I got there at like 4:30 and it closed at 4, but then miraculously they had left it unlocked. So I did go in and trespass technically to go see Dorothy's grave. There's a lot of argument on the internet about this American flag somebody had left there. And should I have taken it? I did not choose to do that since I was already like trespassing, and there were employees somewhere there. Their cars were there, so I didn't want to be there removing things from people's graves during off hours. Maybe next time I will though. So this is the farm in Marlboro, New York. Able to take the train like an hour 45 minutes north of the city. Um, Tom Cornell Jr., Tommy Cornell, some folks call him, was kind of my host, and he lives in the right house here with a bunch of fellas, and on the left is his mother Monica lives there, as well as one guest. Dorothy Day kind of writes about the Catholic Worker Farm sometimes being houses of hospitality on the land, and that this is the only Catholic worker that I experienced it as like, yeah, I could see why you would say that. All the Midwest ones do not really do hospitality in the same way, but they have a lot of folks who just live there who are just needing a place to stay. I only got to visit for a day, and it was kind of a busy day too, so I kind of got shown around, and then I was given this map here on the left of just the property, and I just kind of walked around. The picture on the right there is some neighboring farms, apple farms. It's apple country, tons of apple growing all through there. So I saw that when I was going around. A lot of people pointed out the bridge, and they were like, Theo, don't worry, it's a rickety bridge, but it's not that rickety. But then that picture on the right, it was the rickety bridge, and it was kind of that rickety, as you might imagine. But I made it across. The picture on the left, they have a pond in the middle of the farm, and they have a canoe and stuff like that. You can go canoeing in it. It was nice. Here's a cool tractor I liked. The water there, I got, Tommy warned me, like, oh, the water is super sulfury, so if you want to drink some of the purified water, feel free. And I was thinking to myself, oh, I'm a Catholic worker. I'm super simple living and tough and stuff. But then I washed my hands with that water one time. I was like, oh boy, maybe I do want to drink that filtered water, just smelling it. On the left, a whole bunch of hot peppers there. One of their guests was growing. It was later in the season that I was there, like in October. So that top right picture is a field with not much in it, but theoretically vegetables grow there in the summer. And then Tommy gave me this giant bag of garlic to take with me back to the city houses. So this is me riding on the subway with like a giant bag of garlic going back to the house. They had a what did they call it? Like a hermitage there on the land. So this is like a picture of the no utilities, middle of the woods hermitage there. Here's their chapel on the bottom left, and a picture of their kitchen on the top right, just normal kitchen. Decent chapel, nice chapel, St. Benedict there looking out. So this is a picture of the Elizabeth, New Jersey Catholic Worker site, which was one of my favorites. Not that they weren't all my favorite, but Alexandria, who I lived with in Los Angeles, started this worker. And what makes it interesting is she kind of just does it on the side. A lot of people like reach out and ask me and on the social media and stuff, like, I love the Catholic Worker, but I don't think I can just like move to a Catholic Worker house because I have a life of some sort. How can I live this? And so Alex just has a normal job. They rent out this like event space every Monday evening because a lot of people don't have parties or anything on Monday evenings. So she just cooks and goes and serves there. This is an outside storefront. There she is on the left with a bunch of donated hygiene products and stuff, and the salad she made in the bottom right there. You can kind of see in that top right picture. I should have done it bigger, but it's like a long, skinny room. And so they just set up tables there and serve and then clean up when they're done. And you can see there's like this faux crystal hanging from the ceiling there. So it's kind of festive. And then I don't have any pictures, but I also wanted to mention the White Rose Catholic Worker Farm in northern Missouri, because they're a little bit different. They're like a super low tech Catholic worker. So they're like, no screens, please, while you're on our farm. And they use workhorses and stuff like that. Their washing machine is horse powered, and they plow with horses and mow with horses and stuff. So they're a pretty cool project up there too. I have a couple minutes, so I was just going to show some Sugar Creek photos because they're really fun. This is the group picture. If you ever are in Iowa in September near Dubuque, you should go to Sugar Creek. Here's a talent show in the evening, people doing their skits and their songs and stuff. On the left there is Jesse from Detroit, who won the coveted Football Mary, which, as you can see, is a statue of Mary with a football bungee corded to it. Dishes going on there on the right. Important part of every Catholic worker gathering. It's at like a church retreat center in the middle of cornfield, Iowa, kind of. So that's what's there on the left, and on the right, that's kind of the pavilion a lot of the action happens at. Carl Meyer from Nashville made it with his Peace House. So here is his Peace House with peace facts on the side that he drives around teaching about nonviolence and stuff. Couple more shots there. You can read his leaflets. Here we are getting ready for Catholic Worker Liturgy. Got some Catholic Worker bread and wine there. And Steve Jacobs from St. Francis in Columbia getting ready for music. And yeah, folks just hang out, do roundtable discussions like in this picture on the right. And yeah, Sugar Creek, everyone should come, even if you're not a Catholic worker and even if you're not in the Midwest. And that's kind of it. This is me with the St. Joseph's House Catholic worker folks, and there's me with the cow. If you want to hear about how I learned to milk a cow, you can check out on YouTube my presentation from Thursday. So yeah, thanks for listening, folks. And yeah, and I don't know if anyone has any questions, feel free to.
Thank you very much, Theo.
No problem, Dick. I'll be there actually in a few days. I'm making a surprise trip to Los Angeles, so I'll see you soon.
Hey, I've got a question, Theo. Can you share any about how the different Catholic workers had fun?
How they had fun. Yeah. Yes. So I don't know, at the Catholic let's think about who did I talk to tonight. For Cherith Brook, one fun thing we did was me and Brian, who's on this call from the Malloy house, were there during that protest weekend. Had a barbecue and some couple of drinks of choice and hung out as kind of like a celebratory thing. When I was just at the Bloomington Catholic Worker a couple weeks ago, they had a Super Bowl party, which some people actually liked the Super Bowl, but other people just like having snacks during the Super Bowl, you know. I was visiting the New York Mary House Catholic Workers for Halloween, and so we did a group dress up and went in a group costume around to the book crawl that was happening in Manhattan, different bookstores hosting events and stuff like that. Yeah, and I don't know. I think a lot of Catholic workers like having a Catholic worker and a visitor, and it's just fun to gossip and talk about what's going on with the other Catholic workers. So I spend a lot of time doing that too, and I think that's kind of fun. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to talk about. I guess like a lot of places too, like it's hard to know what to include on this. Like a lot of places I didn't even talk about like their prayer